So I lift my hands to the God that guides me, to the one that finds me. Even in my darkest days, he walks beside me singing songs of freedom, always singing songs of life. And they're leading me out of the darkness, and they're bringing me into the light. Hey, he never said it would be easy. No, he never said we would be safe.
As a child, you don't know what's normal beyond your own experience. For my 6 brothers and sisters and I, we thought that all sleeping in the same room, in the same bed, was what all families do. On the north side of Chicago, it's honestly not that uncommon, and for my mother, it was the best she could do. You see, my dad wasn't there a lot of the time. And sometimes things were good, and other times things would get broken. My mom battled depression and would break our spirits with her words. And I know now that this was all to cover up the brokenness within herself. But as a kid, fear was normal. I feared for my mother and my brothers and sisters. I watched as my dad worked long hours, only to battle his own brokenness that left him unable to function. He was weighed down by the circumstances and the insurmountable task of just getting through another day. So we were on our own, left to make our own choices. And when my dad passed away from illness, all of that pain stayed alive within me. So I pushed it down. If I ignored all the pain, there was no way it could hurt anymore. I grew up. I got a job as a 4th grade teacher, hoping to improve kids' lives. And after a few years, I started talking to a man online who lived in Nebraska. He seemed like a successful, smart, Christian man. So when he asked me to marry him, I thought it was safe enough to say yes. I ignored the red flags in the hope of gaining stability. But when I left my job, my community, and my family to marry this man in Nebraska, it very quickly became clear how controlling it would be. He would control when, if ever, I could leave the house, what I should wear, and how I should act. He began to emotionally and physically abuse me regularly. And although this was familiar, it was not safe. Just like when I was a child, I would assume it was my fault. I had seen the arguments before, felt the emotional and physical bruises too often, and so I thought this must be what love is. Fear is normal. One day, as I surveyed the damage to my body in the mirror, I realized each morning had only gotten worse, and so I left. I was pregnant, battered, and penniless, so I came back to the only place I knew, Chicago. Only once I found a therapist was I able to understand that the things I learned as a child, the fear I had learned to live under, wasn't normal. The blame I had learned to carry for the brokenness of others was something I could lay down. This was not my burden anymore. I filed for divorce, worked on myself, and began to love who I was apart from fear. When one of my friends introduced me to Fellowship Housing, it all seemed too good to be true. Very quickly, Fellowship Housing was more than just a program for my son and I. It was a community where I found healing, acceptance, and a way to end the cycle of abuse in my family's history. I would break a cycle of accepting less than I was worth. Fellowship Housing wasn't easy, though. It forces you to relearn how to go about life in a healthy and humbled way. My Fellowship Housing advocate, Brittany, helped me change my fear into trust. When I voiced my fears about my ex finding us, she said, "We are here to protect you. You are safe here."
My hope, my hope, my hope, hope. Hope. My hope, you're my world, you're my hope.
These words are the start of the story I'm writing today. After 2 years of sticking to my budget, I've become completely financially stable with $30,000 in savings. I own my own home in an amazing neighborhood, even housing women in need of help. I've fulfilled my dream of improving kids' lives by getting a job as a special needs teacher for high school students. What I've learned is that the change you'd like to see for others begins within yourself. And with each woman who stays with me, for each child I get to work with, I see the fear they believe is normal, and I get to show them the trust they can count on to feel safe, seen, and cared for. My son has a new example. I will show him that our brokenness becomes our triumph. Our fear is something to be conquered, confronted, and changed. Our dreams are possible.